have a huge responsibility panel to keep up the energy levels up for the audience. So, summing up the discussions since the morning, one thing is clear that India's rail sector journey is at a different point compared to what it was a decade back. You know, we have record capital expenditure when it comes to our rail infrastructure, near complete electrification of the broad gauge network, our manufacturing ambitions coming to the fore through Vande Bharat trains, growing focus on exports. But beyond these elements, the conversation is now shifting to advanced manufacturing capabilities, digital twins, AI, procurement reforms, right? But there are challenges as well, and they will remain. I think some of the challenges came out pretty well in the last panel that we had. And that is the reason why every year we'll keep inviting you to the ET Rail Show to discuss, deliberate on these challenges, and solve one challenge at a time. So, panelists, let me set the tone with you. When I was talking about the sector's journey in the last decade, your opening thoughts, Surendraji, where do you, in your understanding, what is that one big significant transformation that has changed our sector?
Every year we have 7 crore wait-listed passengers whom we are unable to accommodate. And to get yourself wait-listed in a train, you have to pay a full fare. It is not that you pay a token fare and get wait-listed. So they are all serious travelers, and we are unable to accommodate them. So ultimately, they either have to travel by air or by bus, or if a person cannot afford these, then he drops the plan. The Indian Railways have now resolved that we will provide accommodation to each of these 7 crore passengers. So we are moving in that direction.
Aprajita ji, your quick thoughts. What has been that one big transformation when we look at the decade back for you for this sector?
Thank you, Arjun, for the opening question. I would like to say that Indian Railways has often been described as the lifeline of the nation. But perhaps I like to go a step further and say that today Indian Railways is the key enabler of Indian economic's growth story. The transformation in the last decade has been phenomenal. As you rightly said, the annual capital expenditure has increased many-fold to over 2.5 lakh crores. More than 99% of the broad gauge has been electrified. So, Railways has emerged as a center pillar of infrastructure and logistics strategy of India. Along with that, the Make in India initiatives that Indian Railway has taken in, we are no longer just consumer of the railway technology. In fact, right now we are creating it. From the locomotive manufacturing, the high horsepower locomotives that we are creating at Madhepura, Dahod, or the indigenous train set technology, the Vande Bharat series, or the development of domestic level of wheel factories manufacturing, we are witnessing an emergence of robust railway infrastructure, railways which are future ready. At the same time, we are creating world-class engineering prowess. The Chenab Bridge, which stands tall today, is a symbol of India's economic growth. The hydrogen trains, as Sir has just given a presentation on, gives us the sustainability frontiers today we have. The IRAPS model, it gives us transparency, competitiveness, and accessibility. So I would like to take a stand and say that there is not just one project or one sector that Indian Railways is doing. It is the shift in the mindset. Historically, Indian Railways has expanded itself when there has been a demand. But today, Indian Railways is going forward with the anticipation of capacity increase in the growth story. The objective today is not just to increase the freight share from 27% to 45%, but to become an economy which is future ready for railways, where the ecosystem is such that it supports. That is why I believe it is not just merely trains, platforms, or stations that we are looking at. We are looking at an emergence of an integrated rail ecosystem. Thank you.
Very rightly, ma'am, you've touched upon some points which we'll discuss later in our conversation. Thomas, your quick thoughts, and probably you can share it from a technology perspective, right? That what is has been the integration breakthroughs when it comes to technology and the Indian railway sector.
So we we at Dassault Systems, of course, work at the back end of what probably you see at the front end. A lot of our technology is being primarily used for designing of the locomotives and the coaches and the wagons, and then we also are in the space for the operations and maintenance optimization. So from a technology perspective, we have seen that over the last few years, one is that a large number of foreign OEMs are now manufacturing out of India. And in that sense, a lot of that technology that they are using is now available in India, just in our neighborhood, right? So we are building for the world through these organizations. And of course, we have our own coach factories, which I think have one of the most enviable order books uh, probably in the world today, right? And to churn out this kind of throughput uh, from a factory, it requires a lot of technology adoption, and that is where we have been also working with not only the coach factories but also large number of private entities which are now investing both from the Indian owners and of course the foreign OEMs. So anything that requires cost to come down in terms of how a product is built, how it is proven for safety requirements, and then how it is operated. Everywhere there is a layer of optimization that makes a lot of sense to ensure that you are able to run that business well. And that is where we find a lot of technology enhancement that is happening. And I'm so happy that Suri sir covered the hydrogen train today. And we all should probably feel very proud that we are one of the first countries to do this, right? And when it finally comes into production and commercial, I think we will be one of the leaders in the market today. So this is where probably technology as an enabler to move into the next era of railway operations is very important.
Thank you, Thomas. Mr. Cardos, you heard the panelists speak about the transformation of the railway sector in the past decade. To you, let me put the question in a manner that you bring that European Union perspective, your country's experience. What are the main tendencies there of the rail system, probably in the EU, and features of the Hungarian railway system, and how what can best be implemented here? If you could share some certain experience of the EU and the Hungarian railway system.
So thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm very impressed that I can be here, and maybe that is also a good, how to say, a good argument. What have changed in the 2 decades? So my name is Levente Kardos. I am a commercial counselor at the Embassy of Hungary in New Delhi. And I guess the most important change in the last 2 decades that railway, so I'm not an expert, I have to emphasize, but railway and train is a popular topic. And as a foreign counselor here, foreign economic counselor, I have the opportunity to attend this event. It shows that it's a very important topic based on technology, change of technology, AI. So the most important topics in the technology is all inside. So in Europe, we have the same experience. In the last decades, we rather developed the road traffic, and now the European Union and Hungary itself is rather in the development of the railway. So railway transport lived its second blossom, and the European Union's transport policy improve the rail service, both passenger and cargo sector, and it has a very easy reason. So rail is very cost-effective transportation method, both in passenger and the cargo sector, and of course it's also sustainable tool of transport. So electricity can be generated environmental friendly way by renewables or nuclear. And the other hand, so that's also a change, and that's my last sentence, that the life has changed. So in Europe, a lot of people living not anymore in the cities, but in agglomeration, and the agglomeration transport is based mostly on trains. So in Europe, we are going every day to get to office by train. From the Gurgaon of Budapest, for example, where I live. So I'm going by train, and it's easy, clean, and the most sustainable way.
Okay, thank you for that. Surendraji, let me come to the manufacturing part. Since you headed a rail coach factory, and as Thomas was also telling about the order books, so and manufacturing is a big theme of the government. So when we look at the manufacturing aspect, the question today is more about building the technological depth, supply chain resilience. So when it comes to the manufacturing of coaches, locomotives, wagons, where do you see the next big challenge, given your experience?
Hello. We are making continuous advancements in technology. In the coaches, till a few years ago, most of the coaches were made of mild steel. That was called ICF coaches. It was based on ICF design. And then we started producing stainless steel coaches, which is on a German design. It's called LHB. But 70 to 80% coaches we continue to produce to ICF design because it was much cheaper. The cost of coach varies from type to type. Say second class AC 2-tier coach, ICF design costs 1 crore, LHB design, which is stainless steel, costs 3 crores. Although if you look at the life cycle cost, the stainless steel coach is cheaper. Okay, but the difference is so much. If you are producing 1 or 2 coaches, it's easy to decide, instead of spending 1 crore per coach, let's spend 3 crores. But we produce 10,000 coaches a year. So it becomes a very difficult decision, and you say, where will the money come from? But we decided to bite the bullet, and we discontinued manufacture of ICF design coaches, and we have gone in for stainless steel coaches, which are lighter, which are longer, they have 25% higher capacity, which are safer. In case of an accident, the ICF coaches tend to climb one on top of another. So that leads to many casualties. The LHB coaches, even in a more serious accident, वो आड़ी टेढ़ी हो जाएंगी, ऊपर नीचे नहीं चढ़ेंगी. So the number of casualties is much less. And then the next step was we went in for the Vande Bharat coaches, which are self-propelled coaches. In a locomotive hauled train, the maximum horsepower you can develop is limited. It's limited by something called adhesion between the wheel and the rail, and depends on the axle load. In a locomotive, you may have 4 axles or at the most 6 axles. The maximum horsepower you can produce per axle is limited. If you try to generate more, then the wheel will keep on rotating at the same place without developing any torque. In case of self-propelled coaches, It is for you to decide how many powered axles you want to have. In our trains running in the suburban section, Bombay and Calcutta, 33% coaches are powered and 67% are trailer coaches. In the Vande Bharat, 50% are powered and 50% are unpowered. In the bullet trains in Japan, 100% are powered. So it is for you to decide how much power you want. And the Vande Bharat train, because 50% axles are powered, the acceleration and deceleration is much higher. It is 4 to 5 times that for a locomotive hauled train. And when the train moves, it is not always moving on a straight track. There are curves, bends, and there are restrictions, so it is slowing up and down. So by having a much better acceleration and deceleration, you are able to substantially reduce the travel time, even if the peak speed at which you are moving this is the same. So similarly, we are making advancements in locomotives and in wagons. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Aparajita ji, since morning, I think procurement is something that has not been touched upon. I was studying about how railways has, now incorporated AI-driven tender analytics and consortium features to IREPS. Tell us about that experience and, going forward, what sort of reforms, we can also look at.
See, I would say that digital transformation,
Yeah.
they have significantly changed the procurement ecosystem for Indian Railways. IRPS has brought in transparency, more competitiveness. The whole tendering contracting system has become paperless. But with the integration of these analytics driven tools, digital capabilities, procurement is more becoming from the transactional activity to a strategic function, if I may say. So the next phase of procurement or the procurement reforms that we are looking at in Indian Railways is aligning procurement frameworks with life cycle cost analysis. See, Indian Railways has already started a direction towards this life cycle cost analysis where we are having bundled contracts, which we call them the PCMA or the MCMAs, procurement cum manufacturing agreements, or the MCMAs. So the notable example is the Dahod uh, locomotive example, if I may say so. It is a 9,000 horsepower locomotive. It has been built by Siemens. We are procuring around 1,200 numbers. So this is a procurement cum manufacturing agreement. How does it benefit Indian Railways and what reform is it getting? It is helping us to get reliability of the locomotive. It is accessible to us, and the most important that it is maintainable throughout the life cycle of the asset. A similar example is the Vande Bharat that we are procuring through the technology partners. We are procuring around 200 rigs, we all know that. And again, in this, we are assuring that through the entire life cycle of the asset is available to us in its best condition and it is maintained by the technology partner. So that is the thing is that these models, they support the broader objective of Make in India for us, wherein we have the long-term viability with the industry. We are encouraging investments in development, in technology, in scalability, and improving the supply chains with us. So today, it is not about just purchasing assets for Indian Railways, it's about securing long-term performances. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thomas, let me come to you on AI and digital twins. It's been said that now rail assets will first be digitally designed long before they're built physically, right? Globally, we're seeing AI-driven predictive analysis transforming, rail life cycle assets. When you look at these two, AI, digital twins, can you help us understand where these technologies have been able to deliver measurable value in our rail ecosystem?
So, from our offerings, the most important thing that we do is we do something called as life cycle management, right? Which I was also now talking about is not a transactional based activity. It is mostly from the time you ideate a project, then you build, manufacture, then it goes into operation, and then of course there is a feedback that comes back from the field as to what is happening and what is the kind of design changes that you need to bring in. And over the life cycle of the product, that is from the time it is ideated to the time it reaches its graveyard, there is so much of data that gets generated, right? And for AI to run, the fuel is data, right? And if today we talk about industrial AI, it is much different from the AI that probably me and you use over our phones and other devices, primarily to do some kind of some kind of a research or a coding, right? When it comes to industrial AI, the aspects of physics and engineering are yet to be. There is not enough data available or models that can do an automatic design, right? So, having said that, we at Dassault Systems now have on our platform uh, agents, AI agents, which help the designer to do a guided design. And for those customers who have been on our platform, right, we have so much of design data that is available. The machine itself is able to do the iterative design. Design is an iterative process. So instead of creating a geometry, testing it on the system, and then recreating the geometry and testing it again, the machine is able to do it on its own. And where our customers have used this kind of technology, they've been able to reduce the time and the manpower required for the design process at least almost by 10x times, right? So that's a huge. So 40,000 man hours becomes 4,000 man hours, right? You can see the difference. And similarly, when it comes to the operation side, we today know that there is either under maintenance or there is over maintenance, and that's where predicting a failure based on predicting a failure where a lot of data churning has to be done, and also arriving at the root cause of failure. That's again where AI will definitely play a role, where using textual queries, you will be probably able to run those programs at the back end and understand that what is the residual life. It could be on the structural side, it could be on the operation side. So these are some very niche areas that we are presently working on.
So if I ask you to narrow down, let's say an Indian rail operator or manufacturer, if you would have to narrow down one digital capability over the next 5 years, what would that be that they should adopt?
Okay, so I see a lot of scope in operations optimization, right?
Okay.
Like what sir also brought out today, we have almost 7 crore waitlisted passengers, right? But we also need to understand that, especially in our railways, we share the track between passengers and freight. Freight brings revenue. Passengers, I'm sure, are the revenue from the passengers train running is not something which builds revenue for the railway. So what becomes important for railways to sustain is that it has to increase its freight operations, right? So today, a passing for a freight train is left to the decision making at the section level, right? And fortunately, we are very fortunate that now we are working with railways to try and understand this a bit more better, and how we can improve the capacity utilization of the tracks, and then reduce the dwell time of the freight trains for passings, and then increase the throughput from the existing infrastructure. So this is something that immediately comes to my mind as far as operations technology is concerned. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kadosh, you rightly shared the experience. Now let's talk about areas of cooperation that you see between Indian Railways. Areas of cooperation.
Cooperation.
Yeah. Indian Railways, Hungarian railway system, and when we look at this cooperation, what could be a win-win situation for both the companies, corporates of both these countries?
So what I would like to mention that Hungary, as a member of the European Union, is starting now a very intensive rail development program because of the reasons I already mentioned, that in Europe the railway sector is getting more and more important. And after the previous election in Hungary, the new government just began to discuss with the European Union because some funds were blocked under the previous government, and these funds were opened again, and now so the amount of these funds which were released, these funds, takes more than 16 billion euro, and the Hungarian government would like to use it for development, and of course for railway development as well. So among other topics, and of course there are fields of development, so rail infrastructure, rolling stock, electric multiple units, commuter trains. I mentioned already this for the suburb, trains for sidelines and locks as well. And what exactly, how can cooperate Hungarian and Indian companies, for example, to join research and development process, thus becoming a consortium partner and get European references, which references can be used in India, also for local tenders. Rolling stock developed and qualified according to European standards can be easily adapted to Indian requirements. There's a lot of time and cost can be saved, not to speak about the advantage of time to market. Beyond participating in complete train development, there is a fair chance for joint development of leading edge aggregates, which can be manufactured and sold both in Hungary and in India. So Hungary can be the European entry point. Of course, you have a lot of European entry points. Right. You already use these entry points, but Hungary can be one more entry point in this occasion, right, because hopefully we have the new sources. So we are happy to cooperate with you, and I'm happy to support the Indian companies. Definitely, which are interested.
We look forward to seeing that. Surendraji, public capex we discussed is definitely strong, but now there are talks of asset monetization, financing. Where do you see? In fact, I should ask, which are some rail assets class which do you think in the next 5 years have the most potential towards monetization? If you could share something.
We had floated an idea. We have been outsourcing a lot of activities regularly. There was a time when railways were doing everything themselves, like the army. And then we decided that we should focus on the areas of our core competence and outsource everything else. The ultimate in outsourcing, which we already thought of but not done yet, is to allow the private operators to own and run the trains. The proposal is very much there. At the moment, it is in cold storage because sometimes some of these have a lot of political implications. Some people can accuse you of selling the railways, okay? But the basic idea is that you invite private players, let them invest in coaches, okay? So the rake is owned by the private player. It can be manufactured in one of the railway factories, but he pays the cost. And then the Indian Railways provides the locomotives, the driver and the guard, and we give him a path. Okay, say from Delhi to Mumbai, we will run the train for 10 lakhs. And he in turn may make 20 lakhs or whatever he can make. So right now, we are limited, our hands are tied when we want to increase the passenger fares. Because again, it has a lot of political overtones. A private player, he has no such limitations. He can try and provide a better service. He can charge the higher fares. So I suppose that this proposal, which is presently in cold storage, will sometime get implemented. So that will be the ultimate in having private players own the trains and to run them.
Okay. Prajadeep ji, how would you like to add to what Surendra ji said? What are these classes where we can look at monetization?
I would like to start by saying that public capital expenditure will remain the backbone of railway infrastructure for all the core manufacturing activities or infrastructure creation. However, Indian Railways, as we are moving forward, and we have to realize the vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047, we need institutional capital that will increasingly complement the public investment. To answer your question, I think I will go for a different approach, as Sir said. The question is not about what is investable. The question is how do we make an asset investable? When we have investors like NIF, pension funds, sovereign funds, DFIs, how do they invest in an asset? Do they just look at a station or a logistics park or a warehouse and where they want to invest? Or what they're looking for, what the asset is offering, whether it is offering a predictable cash flow, managerial easiness, manageable risk, scalability, and long-term growth potential. If assets offer these aspects, I think the asset easily becomes, it easily attracts capital. Similarly, Indian Railways, what we have is, we have long gestation periods, we have easy cash flows that ways, and the money is secure. So a lot of times, the NIFs, DIFs, sovereign funds, pension funds, they like to invest in us. Having said that, the logistics-linked infrastructure, which is being created because of the creation of DFC, is now quite a lucrative option. We have multimodal logistics parks, we have easy freight movements, there are Gati Shakti cargo terminals, freight terminals. So because of this rising cargo volumes and greater supply chain integration, that could be one of the angle. The second significant area could be the railway land. We can easily take the opportunity to monetize on the unused land or underutilized land. I think RLDA is doing a great job in that. So I would like to conclude by saying the future lies in creating investable platforms rather than focusing on any individual asset.
Prajita ji, I want you to continue a bit on financing as well, because since morning, financing has been a big topic, and the next phase of this rail expansion would require some serious capital. In this conversation, where do you see green finance coming in? And can it become, a big source of capital for rail expansion when we see it?
Sure. See, green finance has a lot of potential. It can become an important pillar for railway financing in years to come. The reason is that Indian Railways is very uniquely positioned at the intersection of infrastructure development and sustainability. However, unlike many sectors for which decarbonization will require a lot of fundamental transformation, railways is actually a very low carbon transport and naturally aligned to the globally ESGs and sustainable finance objectives. Indian Railways has already created a strong foundation towards this direction. We have nearly completed the electrification. You just started by saying that for the broad gauge. We have adopted renewable energy sources. We are having energy efficient technologies. Sir talked about the Vande Bharat series as well. So that way, Indian Railways is steadily reducing its carbon footprint. So the ambition to net zero is just about to be achieved. From the financing perspective, I would say green finance, it can open new avenues for instruments like green bonds, sustainability linked loans, or climate aligned institutional investments. These instruments, they can support all these renewable energy generation projects, energy efficient rolling stock, the green stations nowadays we are looking at, and various logistics infrastructure. See, the opportunity is particularly significant because railway investments, they create measurable environmental benefits. Rail transport is among the most energy efficient modes of transportation, requiring significantly less energy as compared to any other transport, whether it's road or air. Every ton of freight which is shifted from road to rail, it reduces fuel consumption, congestion, and reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. As Indian Railway pursues to achieve its vision rail for 2047, wherein we try to increase a rail freight modal share from 27 to 45%, we are going to create a cumulative environmental benefit in a very big way. The another emerging opportunity, if I may say, is the potential of railways in evolving carbon markets. The electrification, renewable energy adoption, the model shift create measurable emission reductions mechanism such as carbon credits could provide additional avenues for monetizing railway benefits. While carbon credit may become a primary source for railway financing, it cannot become a primary source, sorry. It can complement green finance by creating additional revenue streams for sustainable infrastructure. Having said that, green finance could be viewed as an enabler for the future growth for railways and replace traditional railway finances. The scale of transformation envisaged in Rail Vision 2047, we will require a blended approach,
Okay.
like combining budgetary support, internal generation, institutional capital, along with these innovative green finance mechanisms. So I would end by saying that today is an opportunity to make sustainability the source of capital, where green finance can complement, strengthen the traditional foundations of railway finances.
All right. Strengthening our traditional source of financing. Last question, 3 minutes. No, after that, we'll just throw it open to the audience. But concluding thoughts, Surenderji, what is that one capability for the next decade based on the conversations today that we have had on procurement reforms, financing, manufacturing, that India should crack to build that globally competitive rail ecosystem? One capability, if you had to pinpoint.
No, basically what we have recently done, in fact, we can extend further. Earlier, we were having a system of preventive maintenance. Each item of rolling stock, locomotive, coach, wagon would be stopped after a certain interval, after it has done 1 lakh kilometers or 2 lakh kilometers, and taken to a workshop or depot. All the major assemblies were stripped and the extent of wear and tear was measured. If it is within permissible limit, it was reassembled. If it is beyond permissible limits, the part was replaced or repaired. Now we have a system whereby you have track mounted systems which automatically are able to do this job.
Okay.
It is like going for an ultrasound. You and I have to go for ultrasound, we have to go to a hospital. Here the ultrasound is on the track. The trains are running at their full speed and this system is monitoring the health of the bearings, health of the wheels and the other bearing components. So we have already started doing it. We have the system in place at 25 locations in the country and we can move further in that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
What would that be for you, Aprajita ji, when we look at that one capability?
Looking at the time, I would just like to summarize by
Yes.
saying that to have a future ready or a sustainable competitive railways, we need some ingredients. What are those ingredients? We need some design parameters. We need the right financing. We need manufacturing capabilities. We need operations and we need the export capabilities. So we have discussed all about these things.
Yes.
I think India has the right ingredients right now. What we need is the scalability. Once we scale that, we try to become the next gen ecosystem. If we look at foreign railways like the globally competitive, maybe Japan or Germany, they are not looking at any single train set or any locomotive technology or any platform. What they are selling is the entire rail solution ecosystem. That is what is required for Indian Railways to become the globally competitive, sustainable railways for tomorrow. Thank you.
Very rightly put. Thomas, your quick concluding thoughts?
I think I'll skip this question because I'm not an expert on
Okay.
railways and it will be not right on my part.
But
We
from a
already
technology
have
perspective, you
the
can say.
views. And so let me just
Yeah.
finish. So because I am not empowered to probably give my views on what railways should be doing because we have
Right.
the right people on the stage to do that. But of course, from a tech perspective, our intent is, of course, increase our engagement both with the foreign OEMs and the Indian manufacturers in India, and provide an ecosystems where train travel becomes much more safer and much more pleasurable than probably what it is today. We've come a long way because we are all from the previous century, right? So, and we have traveled in trains which were probably much different from what we do today, right? And the simple fact that you have welded tracks today, very simple, and this is out of my own experience. So you don't have that the khadak. You have a tabla mein there is a taal called rela, right, sir? So that is gone now. You have a very and that's a very basic thing where you can sleep peacefully on a train today because it has improved the speed of the track also because we are able to manage the expansion of the tracks in a different way today, right? The simple technological intervention changes the life of the person who is experiencing that in a big way.
Okay.
So, and that's the way forward, right? So, it to your question, my answer is skipped.
Okay.
But from a personal experience, I think we have come a long way. But miles to go before we
Miles
see,
to go. Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Cardos, probably you can tell one best system level implementation from your country's rail system that probably we can draw inspiration from. Something which you can tell from a system level implementation when it comes to your country's rail sector that probably we can draw some inspiration from.
I'm not, but I guess there are a lot of technological solution. And if you are talking about the future, from my point of view,
Yes.
yeah, I'm not an expert, not in technology, not even not a railway expert. So from my point of view, the next level is, or my expectation to improve our cooperation with Hungarian technology and Indian technology. So improved technology transfer, improved supplier connections, and based on the EU-India Free Trade Agreement, which is also the future, the signing of the Free Trade Agreement. So I hope that our cooperation is the future.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we have one question from the audience before we wrap up? Yes, sir, please.
We are investing in electrification of tracks also. Simultaneously, we know that hydrogen is something which is much more cleaner. Our electricity, grid electricity, is 75% or so carbonized. So, and pollution is also a big problem in India. So, we should invest more on hydrogen based things instead of just investing in electrical infrastructure and then making it standard.
Surinder, you would like to take?
First, hydrogen train should be in operation very soon. It is a pilot project, and assuming the project is successful, then the Indian Railways plans to go in for many more hydrogen trains, perhaps to start with on the heritage routes like Kalka Shimla, Darjeeling Himalaya Railway, Mathavan Railway, and others. So, yes, you are right. As I had mentioned in my presentation, the ultimate goal will be having a hydrogen economy. Today, all diesel and petrol vehicles are going over to electric vehicles. And tomorrow, all of them may go to hydrogen. So the same thing will happen with the railways.
Sir, my name is Vivek Singh. I am from Ashoka Buildcon Limited. We are basically EPC contractors for rail infra projects. My question is from one of the panelists, Mr. Thomas sir, or maybe Suri sir can add to the answer. Sir, as we are talking about the advancement of rail infrastructure technology, where do you see the biggest gap between or disconnect between the rolling stock design and field infrastructure readiness? And what could be the role of an EPC contractor to fulfill that gap?
Was the question clear to you, Surendraji? I think
Basically, you're talking about what an EPC contractor can do in the area of modernization of the railways.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So far as readiness of field infrastructure is concerned.
Yeah.
So
No,
like if we talk
basically,
about doubling third line.
we are
or-
modernizing all the infrastructure, which includes track, signaling, and rolling stock. Okay. So with every passing year, you find some steps being taken, like Kavach. Kavach is a big step forward, which is for operation and signaling. Okay. So as we are moving forward, it is for the private sector to show their interest, and they can come singly or they can have a joint venture with any of the established suppliers abroad, and they can bring in the modern technology. So the railways is advancing on all fronts. It is for you to choose which front will suit you.
okay, that's all the time. Thank you.
Thank
PhD Rail Committee. My question to Mr. Kordos. Hungary has been traditionally a very strong railway country. We had GANs, GANs tap changers, and GANs is a big group. So and you have been following as a representative in India for the urban mobility also. You heard the speakers perhaps that there's a lot happening in the urban mobility. There is a lot happening in the mainline railways. So how Hungary can contribute? And with the EU arrangement, which is going to come, maybe already signed but not effective as yet, maybe it gets endorsed in January 27, maybe. So how can Hungary really, in terms of the modern rolling stock, now we are talking of reviving the trams in Calcutta also. So trams, we have the RRTS, regional rapid, we have the main line, we have the metros, we have an articulated train, we have the ropeways, so many. How can Hungary really bring the technology? TOT or PPP, that's different. How can Hungary really contribute to the mobility sector in India, railroads?
I think that as both India and Hungary strongly focus on railway sector, and there is a long-term commitment to improve the railway industry and the quality of service by both governments. It may establish a long-term business. So how we can do it? So for example, I already mentioned that, as you mentioned, we had Hungarian companies with huge heritage. We have this knowledge in Hungary, not anymore in the guns, Mavak, but these companies are there. They just built up a consortium, and they would like to cooperate with Indian companies in several fields. For example, in development of commuter trains, and also other fields as well. So as I mentioned, the most important thing to start to communicate. I'm here. I can forward the message. I cannot answer the technology issues, but please let's talk about the possible cooperation.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos.
Thank you very much.
You.